this is my contact page, and right now there's nothing in it. I need to add a contact form to it. And to do this, I'm going to go and add a plugin. So plugins, add new. I'm going to add contact form 7, which is a really popular and free plugin. And it's very easy to use as well. So I'm going to install it. So it's downloading and it's going to install. Activate plugin. And now you can see the setting. It says settings here, deactivate or edit. Settings here is the same as going to contact here in the tab here. So I'm just going to click here. So this is the default form that comes up. It says contact form 1. I can change this to say default contact form. I can make some changes here, and I can also add a new if I want. Actually, I can add a new in Norwegian. And as you see, there's a lot of different languages. So I'll just click add new. So right now, I can write the Norwegian contact. Eller norsk kontaktskjema, contact form. So we'll just save it. So right now I have two contact forms. I'll just switch back to the first one. And these are then the various tags that are in this form. Your name, your email, subject, your message, and submit send button. Below here is a message that will come up when this various things here happen. So you can change, for instance, sender's message was sent successfully. You can change this to something else if you want, or whatever else here. So we'll just save it. And we can generate various other tags here as well. So I need to copy this. And I'm going to go to my contact page. I'm going to paste it in here and save or update. Go to the contact page and refresh. So here you can see the default form. And we can make some modifications to it. We can, for instance, go in the text area here for the message, and we can write, for instance, 5. So this has to do with width and height. And save it. Contact form and refresh. As you see, it's a lot thinner, but the form stretches out to this edge. So this field is obviously going to go to this edge right here. So I cannot change that, but I can change the height. If there's some text that I want inside of it, for instance, message box, I would just write in a quote like this and save. Go to contact and refresh. This is the message that will come up. Clicking into it will not disappear. You just have to delete it, and the person will have to write something here. So I'm just going to take that away again. Other things we can do here, we can add a class, and I'll just show you that in a moment here. I'm going to add another submit button. So ID, a div ID. So this goes into the CSS style sheet, and a class, you can also write some code for that, how you want the button to look like. In the label, if I change this to, for instance, test, it will not say send inside of it, it will now say test. So I'm just clicking outside of it. So we'll just click here as well. I'm going to add send button as a class. So we'll just copy this code And I'm just going to replace what's here already. And save it. Go to contact and do a refresh. And now it says test. So I want that to say send. So you can put send in there or just remove it. So here I have a class. It says send button. That means I need to go to my style sheet. And I want to look at the existing default style sheet. So I'm going to go back into installed plugins. And here it says edit. Right now we're going to look at a default CSS style for contact form 7. Very close to the bottom it says styles.css. Just click that. And here you can see the various code that's used for this form. So I'm just going to select this code and do a copy. And I'm going to my duplicate of my theme style sheet. And I've called that for custom_style.css. So basically this whole section is just a copy of my default theme style sheet. So I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to add a new section for contact form 7 then. So this is the CSS code. So just to make it clear, there is a new section. I'm going to write contact form 7. So this right here, the first code is actually the form. And we can look at that by changing that. We'll just make it really obvious because there's a margin around the whole form. So we'll write 100 pixels on it and save it. And I'll go back to the page here and then do a refresh. So as you see, just copying and pasting in the default CSS into the CSS file that I'm using and make some adjustments, it will change this here. So I'm going to do an undo for this now. And what I did, it has 0. When I make some changes, I usually go like this: edit, or I'll just write changed 0 to 10, because I'm going to add, instead of 0, I'm going to add 10 pixels around it. And I'm also going to add a padding to it. So there's some distance from the left of my form to the menu here. So we'll start by 10 pixels, see what that looks like, save, go back and do a refresh. It is okay like this, but I want some more space from the menu area to my form. So I'm going to add a padding. Margin is the area on the outside of the form, and padding is the text to the edge of the form on the inside. So they're very similar. So I can probably adjust the margin, but I'll adjust it here as well, or instead. So I did a change here, or I will in a moment. Zero, 0.25 emps. So 0 on the top, 0 on the right, 0 on the bottom, and to the left I want it to be 2.5 emps. M is a unit that's related to the font size, and the default font size I believe is either 14 or 16. So it's 2.5 times that. That will be the distance. And I'm doing M like this because it will vary from the browser window size. So, okay, I've saved it. I'm going to do a refresh here. Okay, we have some greater distance between both of them right now. And the width just goes really far out to the side. So I'm going to make some adjustments here as well. So I'm going to add width, and I want that to be 70% of my existing form box. So it's not a predefined width, it will change depending on the browser window. So when I save that now, so what I did was that the form is 70%. If I had 100, it would go full all the way out to the side where it was. 70, if I make it a smaller percentage, it will just go small. It will be smaller and smaller. So that is the form here. So response output, this is the bottom box. Bottom response output box. So we'll just leave that as it is for now. And I'm going to go down to where it says validation errors. I'll show you what that is. When I click test here, there's a yellow border around this area here. I want to remove that yellow border. And that is in the validation error. As you can see, this says validation, and here it says validation error. So there's a 2 pixel border solid, and this is then the yellow. If I put that to 0, changed 2 pixels to 0 pixels. So I know I did a change here, and do a refresh. I also have the test in here. I'll change that in a moment, and now there's no yellow border around it. So I can do that if I want also for these boxes right here, but I'm just going to leave that as they are for now. So one more thing I'm going to do. These fields are so long, so much longer than what the text is. So I'm going to make an adjustment to that. So what I need to go down to is then the input. After this is where that is then. So this is the not valid pop up boxes. So the width, I want to change that. 280 pixels to auto. Auto means it will just see how much text there is in it, and it will change to automatically. Save and do a refresh here. So when I click the test button, you see it automatically goes to the edge of the text right here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back into the area right here. I'm going to save this so it's using the send. Go back to contact and do a refresh. Okay, I have the send button back. Okay, I created a class here. I call it send button. So I'm just going to copy this. Go to the bottom here and put a dot and then send button and bracket, opening and closing bracket. And in that send button, I'm going to add a width. I'm going to just show you really obvious that this affects the button. Contact and do a refresh. Okay, it did not work, so we'll just look at it. If I change this to 500, save, refresh. Okay, now the button is really long, so you can see how it affects by changing this here. So if I add a color background and add red, for instance. You can, some of these you can just add the name, some you need the hexadecimal code. Save. Do our refresh. As you see, it did not change. And as you see, there's also a hover effect here. And that is not down here. It's actually in the default style sheet here I'm using from the theme. It has a form section. So I'm going all the way to the top and looking a little bit down on the list here. Below headings, there's a section called form. So this is the area that I would affect what's going on. So this is the text area. I added in some comments already. So what I want to do, I want to go into the form button here. So here is the background. Here's the color. You can see it here. This button affects what's here. So remember, this is in the existing theme already. So I can change this to the code right here and do a paste and save. Go back and do a refresh. Now, as you see, I've changed this to red. But the width, there's no width here, so that's why it is affecting. If I had a width here or something, that would override the CSS I have already on in the send button on the bottom of this sheet. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back in here, and since I found an area that will change the button, I don't need this class in here right now. So I'm just going to remove this. Click Save. And now it's not connected to it. Click Contact and do a refresh. So this is not using the class send button anymore. So the button goes back to being small and it's not using the CSS send button on the bottom. So just remove that. Okay, I want to style it a little bit further. And by styling it further here, go back to the form area. So the things I want to change, I changed the background button. I want to make a hover effect. And I already commented out some effect I want to have. Okay, I want to use this effect right here. A background color, change it on hover, and there's also shadow on it. So let's save it and do a refresh here. So when you hover over it, it makes a little change here. So the next thing I want to do on the bottom here, I'm going to remove some of the things I'm not going to use here, or I don't need it in my styles because I'm not going to change it. So I'm just going to remove that. So what I want to do right now, I'm just going to add some code here. So this is for various input boxes. And this code is actually from this website here, from vpsnippet.com, and they have a real nice section on styling contact form 7. So there's a border color around these boxes because it's an input and text area. These are the boxes then. There's a border style solid, width of 2, padding on some line height, and there's also a border radius around it that curves it just a little bit, and also a shadow. So I'm going to save it. And now you can see how it looks like right now. And it really stands out. It looks pretty nice. And one more thing I'm going to add. So basically this code here I found at this website. I added in various code myself then. So what I want now, I want a captcha on here. So we're going to do a generate tab tag captcha And as you see, we need to add the plugin for it. So we'll go to plugin, and I'll go add new plugin. And there it is. I'm installing it. Activate plugin. It's now activated. So I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to refresh this page. CaptchaCat. Okay, we have right here. Here's the name of it. I'll just keep it on default. And basically here we can make some changes to the image settings. Let's see, we'll put that on small. Input settings, I want to make just a minor difference here, a few differences. Okay, I can write cap, for instance, and it will add the class cap in here. It says max length, size. So I'm just going to add in this, and I'll show you what that does in a moment. So we'll just copy this in. I'm going to also add a paragraph tag, an input field. We'll add that below it. Copy this in, and okay, we'll look at what it looks like now. Save, contact, and do a refresh. Okay, we now have the captcha area right here. This might be a little bit small, so we'll go back and adjust that. And here it says S. We can change that to M for medium. And save. Go back and do a refresh. And I've added a class to it. I call that for cap. So I'm going to add on the bottom here a class called cap. So the only thing I want to do, I want to add some space between this area and the send button. So margin 0, 0, and I want to add it downward. So we'll just add 2M, 0. Okay, we'll save this. Go back and do our refresh. Okay, we have some space here for it. I'm going to click send now. Okay, so there's no yellow border around here, but there are some red borders around the others up here. And as you see, these areas are then the box ends where the text ends. So this is a tutorial for how to use compact or contact form 7, or how I used it.